Hey people, how are you all? I hope you're doing well. Today's video, as is probably clear from the title, is going to be all about my first week studying animation for my degree. Well, actually, that's a lie. This video is about my first 2 weeks of uni, but the first one of those was obviously freshers, so technically it has only been 1 week studying animation, just 2 weeks on the course. So Falmouth. Lovely place, gotta love Cornwall, it's great. It did take about 7.5 hours to get here because the traffic was horrendous. I swear it was like 99% retired people at the service station. I think they all just go on holiday the minute schools go back, which, I mean, it's cheaper, but yikes, it'd take a long time. But, you know, I reckon it was probably worth the trip. It's very, very cool here. It's still nice and warm despite being like the back end of September. So, I'm not gonna lie, Freshers is an interesting experience for someone like me, because not only are about half the scheduled events drinking events, but I'm kind of far too nervous to show up to most things alone without someone to go with me. Not to mention all the non-scheduled events are all also like pub crawls and such, which is not really my scene, being honest. That said, I didn't just mope around for the first week. In fact, I actually met a load of people through turning up to the various course introduction-y session type things, not all of which were compulsory, but I was like, I'm gonna go anyway, because at least I'll see people. They set a really fun first week kind of challenge of creating like a worst pitch for a children's show, the kind of pitch that no one would ever sign off on, and then we had to make like cardboard and paper costume for a character from our pitch, and it was very silly and kind of dumb, but it was a really good way to meet people on my course and kind of get to know them and stuff. Which does, of course, bring me to the people. I was absolutely right. Animation students are such a lovely, nice, awesome bunch of people. Although a couple of them did somehow label me the cool one when I explained that I own a top hat and brought my waistcoat to uni. So I do slightly question their judgment a little bit, since I'm not sure I've ever been cool in my entire life. But nevertheless, they are all very awesome and have such wonderful art skills. I even met someone who's as obsessed with Lord of the Rings and Tolkien as I am, and so we had like an extended editions marathon on Monday, which incidentally inspired this painting and finally motivated me to actually catch up on the Rings of Power series. The course itself has been really good too, if a little full-on. For starters, the Queen's funeral meant that I had my whole first week compressed down to like 3 days of teaching because of the bank holiday. I had Friday off as well for some reason, don't know why. Which means that the last few days have been a little overwhelming, to say the least. I've also had to pick up and start learning like a whole load of new skills. It hadn't really hit me just how much technology would be involved with this course until now, between the fancy video cameras we've got to learn how to use and the software and such. In hindsight, it makes a lot of sense, but I never did think I would be learning the Kelvin value of like blue and orange light in my first week on animation, and it's been a whole learning curve. So far, we've covered a bit of 2D and a bit of 3D, some theory work, and also started on drawing skills for animation. Although, because of the way my timetable worked out, I actually didn't do any drawing at all until Thursday. The theory and the drawing skills seem to be going well and are pretty interesting, and clearly the tutors have a really good idea of my attention span, as we have like a break every 20 minutes of actual content so that they can show us films and animations, which I suppose is part of the theory, but you know. The actual animating has been a little bit more hit and miss, mostly because I'm still adjusting to the software. We've been using Maya in 3D, which has been tricky, but mostly okay, because literally nobody knows what they're doing and we're all struggling. And then we've been using TV Paint for 2D. The 2D stuff in particular has gotten a little frustrating in places, because I very much felt like I was kind of fighting against the software. As the software has to make space for the animation tools, the drawing tools on TV Paint seems to have taken a bit of a backseat, and as such I spent a whole load of time trying to work out how to do what seem to be really simple things, such as use the transform tool properly. And things that are usually very intuitive to me in something like Clip Studio that I'm just used to being able to do whenever I want, but were really odd and kind of difficult to use here. That said, once I got the hang of it and learned where the buttons were, and trust me, they were hidden in some weird places, it became a lot easier, and it was really rewarding to start to see these things come together. And I think with a lot more practice it will get much easier, and I'll be able to properly just take what's in my head and put it to the page without having to kind of fight and struggle with finding the right buttons to press to make it happen. Additionally, I have managed to keep on top of the work we've been set so far, and I'm hoping that when we actually have Monday in our schedule as well, the workload should start to feel a bit more balanced than it has this last week, because I will admit, it's been a bit full on. Now, one of the things I was, of course, a bit nervous about, aside from the course content, was, you know, the roommate situation. And I am glad to say it seems to be going well. My roommate is a perfectly nice person. I don't see much of her because she's more of a going out drinking sort of person than I am, but that's fine. She never wakes me up when she comes back in late and doesn't seem to mind the hectic chaos state of my desk and my work area. She did manage to lock me out of my room on Thursday, which wasn't ideal, but I suppose I have learned a valuable lesson in making sure I always take my keys, or at least wear shoes rather than slippers, when I go to the kitchen. And obviously, the fact that I've managed to record this video on relatively good time at all is a sign that everything is going well in and of itself. I've not had masses of time to practice my guitar though, but that's more of an exhaustion thing than a roommate thing, I think. I just haven't really got around to it because whenever I get back and I've got some spare time on my hands, it's usually late enough that I just kind of want to sit in bed and binge watch something. So, you know. Finally, the piece itself. As I mentioned, it was massively inspired by having done that Lord of the Rings marathon, and unusually for me, I actually drew it all in one day, pretty much all in one sitting last weekend. This scene is just one of my favourites and really just highlights why I prefer this kind of fantasy to some of the dark fantasy stuff that's popular at the minute, because just there's still so much hope and joy even in the darkest of times, and it doesn't take away from like the impact of the stuff they've been through. But yeah, let's just have everybody be miserable all the time. That totally works. It does work sometimes, just I have a thing about this. Also, I did find a reference photo of Merry and Pippin dancing that had Aragorn's hair like lit up in a really cool way with some really beautiful lighting, and I kind of just wanted to draw that, so I did. Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed this video. I've realised it's come out a bit shorter than my usual ones. I'm not sure if that's just because I'm talking faster or what, but if you did like it, please leave a like or a comment. I love reading people's suggestions and such, and I hope you all have a lovely afternoon / morning / evening / night, etc. Bye!